morning, dear learners. Welcome to teaching learning session of sociology. Today we'll start with a new topic, new subject, BSOE 146, marriage, family and kinship. In today's lecture, we'll discuss about marriage and family. And in this whole subject, we'll discuss in detail about the marriage, about the family and the kinship. Marriage. What is marriage? We discussed about institution in our previous lecture. So marriage is one of the important social institutions. Institution Institution means those who have rules and regulations, and everyone has to follow those rules and regulation. A marriage is an institution because there are certain rules which husband and wife, that is a girl and a boy who got married, they have to follow those rules. It is a relationship which is socially approved. See, there could be relationship between a boy and a girl, but marriage is only a relationship which is socially approved between a girl and a boy. The relationship is defined and sanctioned by customs and law. It is defined, so it is sanctioned and defined by customs as well as the law. The law of the country, and the customs accept this marriage. It is a socially approved institution. So, in short, marriage is a socially approved institution, and it has been that this relationship is defined by the custom as well as by the law. Okay. It has been defined by the sociologist and anthropologist with reference to sexual union between men and women for procreation. The one of the main reason for the marriage is procreation. So sociologists and anthropologists try to define marriage with reference to procreation. It is a sexual relationship between a man and a woman for procreation. Second, on the basis of establishing and legitimacy of children born out of the union. The marriage only give the legitimate authority or legitimation to the children born out of the wedlock. Acquisition of certain legal right. Definitions of marriage. Marriage is a relation of one or more men to one or more women, which is recognized by the custom or law and involves certain rights and duties, both in case of parties entering into the union and in case of children born of it. So marriage is a relation of one or more men with one or more women, and this relationship is recognized by the custom, by the law, and this marriage involves certain rights and duties, both in case of for both the parties entering into this union and in case of the children born out of it, because the children born of it is known as they are known as the legitimate children. According to Malinovisky, marriage is a contract for production and maintenance of children, because the first objective of marriage is procreation, right? So sociologists and anthropologists defined it with reference to procreation. So according to Malinovisky, marriage is nothing but a contract for the production and maintenance of children. According to Lundberg, marriage consists of rules and regulations that define the rights, duties, and privileges of husband and wife with respect to each other. So, according to Lundberg, it is a bundle of rules and regulations It defines the rights, rules, and regulations because it is an institution, and it defines the rights, duties, and privileges of husband and wife. According to Hutton and Hunt, marriage is an approved social pattern whereby two or more persons establish a family. The significance of institution of marriage in society is due to different function it performs in society. Why marriage is so important in any of the society? Because it is so important, or the significance of marriage is because the functions it performs in the society. What functions it performs? It provides recognized firm for entering into relatively and during heterosexual relationship for bearing and rearing of the children. The first is procreation. Second is it is thus the primarily way of regulating human reproduction. It the right of sexual relationship that universally accompanies marriage provide legitimization to the children born in the wedlock. So, what are the functions of this marriage? First function is procreation. Second is it regulates the sexual orientation. Third is it gives the legitimization to the children born in the wedlock, and the legitimacy is of great importance in the matter of inheritance and succession. Why legitimation is very important? Because it plays a very important role of inheritance and succession, inheritance of the properties and various other things, and succession and lineage. In industrialized Western society, marriage function beyond procreation and child rearing. It provides a companionship as well as emotional and the psychological support. See, functions like procreation, functions like sexual regulation of sexual orientation, functions like legitimization of the children, which helps in succession and inheritance. Uh, Beyond this, in industrialized society, it provides the marriage provides a psychological and the emotional support. It provides a companionship. So these are the functions of marriage. There are different theories related to marriage. Uh, Edmund Leach defined marriage as a relationship establishment between women and one or more other person, which provides that a child born to a woman under circumstances not prohibited by the rules of the relationship is accorded full birth status common to normal member of his society or the social stratum, because it helps in succession and it helps in inheritance, and the it is related, marriage is related to procreation. This is what Edmund Leach defined as a marriage. He considered marriage as a bundle of rights allocated to either or both spouses. The list of 10 rites performed by the marriages to establish a legal father of a woman's children, to establish a legal mother of a man's children, so it legitimizes the child. It gives the husband a monopoly in the wife's sexuality. It regulates the sexual orientation. Next is to give the wife a monopoly in husband's sexuality, to give the husband partial or monopolistic right to the wife's domestic and other labor services. So it gives the right, it legitimizes the children, it marriage regulates the sexual orientations, as well as it gives the right to the husband partial or the full right, monopolistic right to the wife's domestic and other labor services, to give the wife partial or monopolistic right to the husband's and labor services, to give husband partial or total right over the poverty belonging or potentially occurring to the wife, to give the wife a partial or total right over the property belonging or potentially occurring to the husband, to establish a joint fund of property, a partnership for the benefit of the children of the marriage, and to establish a social significant relationship of affinity between husband and his wife's brothers. So, according to Edmund Leach, there are various important rights performed by the marriage. He has given 10 rights that is related to the legitimization of the children, that is related to the sexual orientation, that is related to the services, that is related to the economic conditions, all these rights. Now, Kathleen Gog, according to Kathleen Gog, actually, she questioned the traditional definition of marriage in terms of union between a man and a woman for reproducing legitimate offspring. Traditional understanding of marriage assumed the coexistence of three conditions: sexual union between men and women, procreation of offspring, and legal legitimation of offspring born. So these are the three understanding. That is the sexual union. First is procreation, second is procreation, and third is a legal legitimation. Gog argues that one of the above condition may or may not be present in different forms of marriage. She illustrates this with example of marriage among the Nayars in South India. So she questioned the traditional definition of the marriage. Maybe there can be the sexual union between the men and the women, but not because for the procreation, or there could be a procreation but without marriage, so legal legitimation is questionable. So she questioned the traditional definition of uh, marriage. Patricia Abrae, according to Patricia Abrae's study of Hindu marriage, is an understanding of marriage in terms of law, litigation, and tradition. She discusses the importance of sex and sexuality in judicial perspective on marriage, both as sacrament as well as contract. So, Patricia O'Brien studied the marriage with the reference to judicial perspective. She studied the marriage in terms of law, in terms of litigations and tradition. Marriage rules. See, there are certain do's and don'ts of marriage. There are certain rules of marriage. First rule is exclusion. Second rule is inclusion. That is exclusion and inclusion. Exclusion or inclusion of marriage partner to whom one can marry and to whom marriage is prohibited. That is exclusion and inclusion. There are basically two type of rules about whom one should marry or not. First is rule of prohibition. Rule of prohibition means where what one should not do, where one cannot marry, right? Stating the kin or relative whom one cannot marry, that is prohibited as a marriage partner. The rule of exogamy in North India is an example of rule of prohibition. What is rule of prohibition? That uh, whom one cannot marry. It has been stated. Exogamy is an example of this rule of prohibition. Next is a rule of prescription, that is endogamy, prescribing the preferential marriage partner, that are relatives who are preferred for marriage. The practice of cross cousins among South Indian is an example of rule of prescription. So there are two rules of marriage, that is a rule of exclusion and rule of prescription or inclusion. Rule of exclusion is known as exogamy. This rule states to whom one should not or one cannot marry, right? And the second rule is rule of prescription or endogamy. This prescribes the preferential marriages, or this describes the relatives who are preferred for the marriages. Next is number of marriage partners. So first rule was rule of inclusion and rule of exclusion, right? Second rule is rule of marriage partner, right? In some society, people are allowed to have only one marriage partner, that is monogamy. One man can marry one a woman. Whereas in many other society, they are allowed to have more than one marriage partner. When where one can have more than one partner, that is known as polygamy. Where one partner, where in societies where one marriage partner is allowed, that is known as monogamy, and where one can have more than one partner, that is known as polygamy. So number of partners. Second rule of marriage is number of partners. First was rule of inclusion, rule of exclusion, rule of second was the rule of partners. The third is status of group, which is preferably girls are married. It could be the higher status group, hypergamy, lower status group, hypogamy, or equal status, isogamy. That is status of group which is preferably girls are married. They could be married to their higher status group. They could be married to the lower status group, that is hypergamy, hypogamy, or equal status group, isogamy. So these are the rules of marriage. See, incest taboo means a rule of exclusion. One of the basic and universal rule of exclusion to marriage is the incest taboo, or a rule of prohibition of marriage or sexual union between the members of the primary family. You cannot marry, there should be no marriage between the members of the primary family, right? That is marriage between their siblings and others. In society with unilinear descent system, that is patrilineal or matrilineal system, the society which follows either the patrilineal or the matrilineal system, the incest taboo is often defined based on the distinction between the two kinds of the first cousin, parallel cousins and the cross cousins. Sexual relationship with the parallel cousin is incestuous because they belong to the same generation and the same descent group. Sexual relationship with the cross cousin is not prohibited because they belong to the opposite group or moiety. So one cannot marry with the one cannot have a sexual relation with the parallel cousin, but could marry with the cross cousins. There can be a marriage between cross cousin, and there should be no marriage between the primary, between the members of the family. Exogamy and endogamy. Exogamy is marriage rule that prohibits marriage with one's own defined social group. That is, within defined social group, one cannot marry. The avoidance of the avoidance of insect and widening of social network are the factors that prevent people from marrying within the group. See, exogamy is when one cannot marry within a well-defined social group. This could be due to many of the reasons. See, there are many theories related to this exogamy, and this avoidance is due to the warning of the social network also. While endogamy allows marriage with member of a close kin group. The reason for this is that spouse could marry from a specific group. It ensured the maintenance of strong kinship network within the group. Exogamy is you cannot marry within a specific group, and endogamy is marriage with the member of a close kin group is endogamy. What is polygamy and what is monogamy? Monogamy is marriage in which Both partner have just one spouse. A one man can marry only a one woman. Both partner can have one spouse, that is monogamy. It is the most common form of marriage, and why it is the most common form of marriage? It is because of the economic reasons. Polygamy. Polygamy is one individual having multiple spouses at the same time. That is polygamy. When one man can marry more than one woman, or a one woman can marry more than one man. That is polygamy. There are two forms of polygamy. See, marriage, there are two forms of marriage, that is monogamy and polygamy. Monogamy is where one partner can have one spouse. Polygamy is where partner can have more than one spouse. Polygamy is further divided into two. What is that? That is polygyny and polyandry. Polygamy is further divided into polygyny and polyandry. Polygyny means marriage of a man to two or more women at the same time. That is polygyny. When gyny means, poly means many and gyny means lady, right? That is polygyny. Guinea means women or a lady, right? Polygyny, when one man can marry more than one woman. That is polygyny. Polyandry means where marriage of a woman to two or more men is polyandry. Poly means many and andry is related to men. So where women can marry with more than one man, that is polyandry, right? So I hope this is clear. Monogamy, where one can have only, where both partners can have only one spouse, that is monogamy. Polygamy is more than both partner can have, or where partners can have more than one spouse, that is polygamy. Polygamy is further divided into polygyny and polyandry. Polygyny is where men can marry more than one woman, that is polygyny. Polyandry, where women can have more than one husband, that is polyandry, right? Mono means one, monogamy, one spouse. Poly means many, polygamy means more than one spouse. Guinea. Guinea means women, so polygyny is two or more wives. And andry means men, so polyandry means two or more husbands. Right? Clear? Next is exogamy, right? Exogamy and endogamy, which I discussed earlier also. Exogamy is marrying out. Exo means exit, gamy means marriage. Exogamy. That is prohibited people of same social group from marrying. Exogamy. Exit, marrying out. You cannot marry within that group. That is exogamy. Endogamy is marrying in. Endo means in and gamy means marriage. So marriages must. That is endogamy. So exogamy and endogamy, there are certain groups in which marriage is prohibited, and endogamy is where marriage is must. That is endogamy. Now, there are rules according to the, there are marriages and rules according to the residence. So previously we discussed the rules according to the number of spouses, according to the groups in which marriage is allowed or prohibited, and now the marriage and the according to the rules of residence. So there are so many rules for the marriage. See, because that is why this is an institution, because of rules. And institution means what? Rules and regulations. That's why we call marriage is an institution, right? Type. Marriages and rules of residence. Type and residence. Type. Patrilocal. The first type of residence is patrilocal. Patrilocal means groom's father. Residence with groom's father. Patrilocal means when a husband and wife lives at the groom's father's place. That is patrilocal. Matrilocal is bride's mother, when they live with bride's mother's place. Right, that is matrilocal. Virilocal is when the husband and wife lives at the husband's place. That is the virilocal. Neutral local is wife's place when they live at the wife's place, wife's residence. Then eventual local is mother's brothers. When husband and wife, when a newly wedded couple lives with mother's brother's place, that is eventual local. And new local is when couple lives at a new place, then they have their own residence. Right? We'll discuss it in detail. Patrilocal. Patrilocal residence occurs when a newly married couple establishes their home near or in the groom's father's house. When a newly married couple establishes their home near or basically in the husband's father's house, that is patrilocal. It makes a sense in the society that follows a patrilineal descent, right? Where patrilineal descent is followed in that society, patrilocal is quite common. This is because it allows the groom to remain near to his male relatives. Women do not remain in their natal households after marriage with this residence pattern. That women has to move to her husband's place, that is in patrilocal, where patrilineal descent is there. The newly wedded couple lives at the groom's father's house. This is patrilocal residence. Next is matrilocal. Matrilocal residence occurs when a newly married couple establishes their home near or in the bride's mother's house, that is matrilocal. Matri, as the name indicates, matri, patri. Patri means father and matri means mother. Matrilocal is when a newly married couple establishes their house in the bride's mother's house. That is matrilocal. This keeps women near to their female relatives. This residence pattern is associated with matrilineal descent, right? That is matrilineal, where society is matrilineal, where mother has given preferences over the father. Hmm. Men leave their natal household when they marry to stay with their wives. Next is virilocal. Virilocal is the residence in which women moves into her husband's home. That is virilocal. When a woman moves to their to her husband's home, that is virilocal. And utrilocal is when is that residence when the man moves into his wife's home. Avunculocal. Avunculocal is when newly married couple establishes their home near or in the groom's maternal uncle's house. When the newly wedded couple moves to the groom's maternal uncle's house, it is associated with matrilineal descent. So there are two ways in matrilineal descent, that is matrilocal, when one stays at the bride's mother's place, that is matrilocal. And avunculocal is when the newly wedded couple moves to the groom's mother's brother's house. When the newly wedded couple moves to the groom's uncle's house, that is avunculocal. It is associated with matrilineal descent, right? It occurs when men obtain a status, jobs, or prerogative from the nearest elder maternal male relatives, when male goes to the uncle. Okay. Having a woman's sons live near her brother allows the older man to more easily teach his nephew what he needs to know in order to assume his matrilineally inherited role. Right? Why this has been done? So that the uncle could tell the groom how what he needs to do to assume his matrilineal inherited role. Next type of residence is neolocal. What is neolocal? Neolocal is a residence when a newly married couple establishes their home independent of both sets of relatives. It became popular and common in contemporary society today, largely because it suits the cultural emphasis on independence. So, neolocal is when a newly wedded couple moves to their own independent home, that is neolocal. So, we have divided the marriage on the basis of exogamy, endogamy, monogamy, polygamy, and then on the basis of residence, that is neolocal, patrilocal, virilocal, exlocal, and then avunculocal, right? Next is MB local. MB local residence is when newly married couple has the choice of living with or near to groom's or bride's family. And the couple may also live for a while with one set of parents and then move to live with another set of parents, that is MB local. They have the choice whether they want to live with the groom's parents or whether they want to live with the bride's parents, or they can choose to stay with both the parents for the shorter duration. They can move from this place to another place, right? That is MB local, right? So marriage presentations are economic transactions. See, it is quite common that relatives give presents or gifts to the newly wedded couple. Why they give it? For the establishment of a newly wedded couple. And marriage, the one of the main reason for marriage is economic reasons, right? So, marriage presents and economic transactions during the marriage. One of these is dowry. Dowry, what is dowry? Dowry is a form of marriage present in which there is a transfer of material wealth in form of jewelry, in form of clothes from family of brides to the groom and his family. When the bride's family presents or give gifts in form of jewelry, clothes, furniture to the groom's family, that is dowry. It is neither to be understood as a form of bride's wealth because he has no control over it, and material or money is used by her husband and his family. So, although these gifts have been given by the bride's family to the groom's family, but this is not a bride's wealth because she has no control over this, because this has been used by her husband, and that is the groom's family, and by the groom. Next type of economic transaction or the present is the bride price. First one was the dowry. Bride price, what was the bride price? Bride price sometimes refers to as a bride wealth. It is a form of marriage payment in which the bride's group receives a payment of goods, money, or livestock to compensate for the loss of women's labor and the children she bear. That is, in this bride price, women has to give gifts or the goods or money or the livestock to the bride's relatives. Why they have to give? This is the compensation of the loss of the women's labor and the labor of the children which she bears, right? That is the children she bears. The exchange relations between the families may persist over many years, and in some society, this is the chief means of circulation of wealth. In these situations, marriage is corporate enterprise in which control over prestige valuable is exercised by an older generation of men. Marriage payment are thus way of establishing a secure alliance for allocating women's labor power and fertility. So they they grow the groom pays for the wife, that they pay the bride's price. This is um, to secure the women's labor and fertility. Bride price is not payment for women, but rather is seen as a way of valuing the labor of a woman, that efforts involved in the bride's family in raising the female, and the labor value of the women's offspring. So it is not the price of the bride, actually bride price, it is the price of the bride's labor of that bride, or labor of the women, and the value of the women's offspring which she will bear. Next type of present is the bride service. A bride service is a custom in which the groom or husband is expected to render services for a stipulated period for the family of his wife. When a groom serves the wife's family for a stipulated period, that is known as the bride service. So there are three types of the presents or the economic transactions associated with the marriage. The first is the dowry. Dowry is when the bride's parents give gifts to the groom's parents. That is the dowry. Bride price is when the groom's family pays money and livestock and other things to the bride, in exchange of the bride's, in exchange of the women's labor and offspring she bear. That is the bride price. And next is the bride service. What is the bride service? That is groom, that is the husband is expected to render services to the wife's relatives, or to the bride at the bride's place for a stipulated period of time. That is the bride service, right? And it is common among the agricultural society. Clear? So we discussed about the marriage. We discussed about the we discussed that the marriage is an institution, because it is institution because there are certain rules and regulations which one has to follow. The rules and regulations of marriage is exogamy, endogamy. Then then there are monogamy. That is a type of marriage. Is monogamy on the basis of spouse. That is monogamy or polygamy. And then there are rules for the residence, that is matrilocal, patrilocal, ambilocal, virilocal. We discussed all these things in details. Now, family. Family. What is family? Family comes from a Latin word famulus or familia. Familia means a household. Family is the most efficient example of primary group. When we discussed about the group, we discussed about the primary group and the secondary group. So family is a primary group. Family is also known as institution. It is the most efficient example of primary group, and it has been originated from a Latin word familia, means household. The family is a group and an institution, and it has certain rules and procedure at its base. It is a group primary. There are two groups, primary group and secondary group. So family is a primary group. It has institution because there are certain rules and regulations and procedures at its base. Everyone has to, every member of the society has to follow those certain rules and regulation. Right? Anthropologists study family with reference to different dimension, including co-residence rules, pattern of authority, descent, marriage, property, and kinship terms. So, sociologists, anthropologists study marriage on the basis of residence, on the basis of authority, on the basis of lineage or descent, on the basis of marriage, on the basis of property and kinship terms. It is considered that the most basic and fundamental unit in the society, and therefore universal grouping in human society. Family is present everywhere. Family is a universal concept. It is a universal grouping in human societies. It is a bond of kinship which primarily unites the member of family grouping together. The two fundamental principles of integration that serve the binding force to keep a family intact and based on the connection arising through marriage and descent. So the fundamental forces which keeps the family together is marriage and descent, lineage. These principles operates produces three major kind of relationship and those existing between the husband and wife, parent and children, and the sibling. Marriage, husband and wife, parent and children because of the marriage, and sibling is because of descent group or the lineage. Right? Definition of family. Murdoch defined the family as a social group characterized by the common residence, economic cooperation, and reproduction. It includes adults of both sexes, at least two of whom maintain a socially approved sexual relation, and one or more children owned or adopted of sexually cohabited adults. So, according to Murdoch, family family is a social group, and this social group is characterized on the basis of common residence. When the people live together, they cooperate economically, and reproduction is even important for the family. In a family, both type of sexes cohabitate, and at least one of the couple should have approved sexual relationship and should have adopted or owned children. Others define family as a group of people who are united by the ties of marriage, ancestry, or adoption, and who are reorganized by community as a constituting a single household and having responsibility of rearing children. So family is people who are united either by the marriage or either by the ancestry or lineage or either by the adoption, and they cooperate, they have responsibilities and duties of rearing the children, and they should cooperate economically. The USA Census defines family as two or more persons who are related to each other by blood or marriage or through adoption and who live together. Family is a social group characterized by the common residence, economic cooperation, and reproduction. So the basic three characteristics of family is economic cooperation, common residence, and reproduction. However, it is important to differentiate family from other similar groups like kin, household, and the domestic groups. So there are four terms: family, kin, household, and domestic group. Difference between the family and kin. In common parlance, the term family and kin appears to be same, but in anthropological literature, two are different. Family denotes a relationship between the spouses and their children, who are described as sibling. That is relationship between the spouses and their children. That is family. While a kin includes within the bound of large number of persons, and what creates a kinship will necessarily depend on the social organization in the context of which term is applied, right? See, family is basically family is spouse and the children and their children. That is a family. While kin includes a large number of person, right? It is actually a social organization. Natedar. Kin is kinship, natedari, right? They are relatives, uncles, aunts. All these are the kins. Difference between family and household. Family and household are often used interchangeably, but they are not the same thing. Family is group of two or more who are related by birth, who are related by marriage or adoption and residing together. All such people are considered as a member of a family, whereas household is a single economic unit, all the member of which are mutually dependent on one another for production of food supply and the satisfaction of most of their wants. That is, a household is when the members are mutually dependent on one another, right? Why they are mutually dependent? For the production, for satisfaction of their wants. Household consists of a family or a part of a family or part of a core members. However, there may be household members who are not the members of the family, such as the servants. They are helping in the production, they are dependent, that servant and the owners are dependent on each other. They need each other. They require each other for satisfaction of their needs, but they are not the family. That is, family includes though family includes those who are related by birth or by marriage or by adoption and residing at the same place. Household is people are residing at the same place. They could be a family or a part of the family, but there could be some other person like this servant or others who help each other, right? While family membership in terms shared consumption, production, and ties of intimacy are extended over several households. So there may be household members who are not the members of the family, such as servants or lodgers, while family membership in terms of shared consumption, production, and ties of intimacy. Right? So household, we interchangeably used family and household, but there is a difference between the family and the household. Now, family and domestic group. What is family and what is domestic group? Family, as we told, that there is a bond between on the basis of the marriage, blood, right, and they reside at the same place. While a domestic group is defined as a group of human beings who habitually share a common dwelling and a common food supply. The family can be a domestic group, but there are some difference between a family and the domestic group. Domestic group is the human beings who habitate at the same dwelling, who share a common dwelling place and the food supplies. The domestic group may consist of more than one nuclear families, as well as people without any kinship links, including the servant and any other member who work and share the same production space, that is the domestic group. At the same time, member of family may be distributed over two or more domestic group. The concept of domestic group is wider than the family and often used synonymously with household. So, what is domestic group? Domestic group is a group of people who reside together and share a common food supplies, but they are not bounded with uh, say either with what we could say is because of there is a no bond because of marriage, right, or because of blood, right? So domestic group could include one or more nuclear families, other members, other kins who lives with family. That is like a can be any kin, or it could include the servant. And household and domestic group could be used. They are the synonyms. Household and domestic groups are the synonyms, and they can be used interchangeably. See, domestic group and household are the same. Characteristics of a family. First characteristic is universality. Family is a universal concept. It is a universal institution. It was found in many simpler society. In advanced society, the whole social structure is built of family units. Permanent relation. Second characteristic is a permanent relationship between husband and wife. The family constituted of husband and wife and their children, and there is a permanent relationship of some kind of established between the men and women is main characteristic of a traditional family. Permanent relationship between husband and wife, and it is a universal concept. Second is a person living alone in housing unit or a group of unrelated people sharing a housing unit such as the partner or one or who occupies the room are counted as household, not the family. That is why that there should be a permanent relationship. See, if someone is sharing the room or sharing the dwelling place, that is they will be known as the household, not the family. So there should be a permanent relationship between the husband and wife. The most distinct difference between the family and household is a kinship unit, whereas the household is a residential unit. Sexual relations as the basis of family. So the third characteristics is the sexual relation, right? Sexual relation, marriage of men and women was institutionalized for the legitimacy of the sexual relationship for the pre-creation of the offsprings. This leads to formation of elementary family, the basic unit of the society. So first was the universality, second was the permanent relationship, third characteristic of family is a sexual relationship as the basis of a family, right? Next is the significance of the blood relations. In traditional families, blood was substance of utmost importance. All those connected through the same blood were regarded as the member of the same family. Financial and economic sharing of the of responsibilities. In traditional families, the financial and economic responsibility is shared among the members of the family. Next characteristic is common habitation. It was assumed that the members of the family shared a common habitat, that is, stayed together in one residence. The common habitation helped members in sharing the economic responsibilities. Next characteristic is system of interaction and communication. The family is composed of a person who interact and communicate with each other in their social roles. So there is required that there should be interaction and communication among the members of the family. Functions of those were the characteristics of the family. Now we'll discuss about the functions of the families. Functions of the family is satisfaction of the sexual needs. This is essential function which the family performs. Next is reproduction, that is procreation. That task of procreation is important function of the family, right? Next is organizing production and the consumption. In pre-industrial society, the economic system is dependent on each family's production, and they should produce what they consume. The family has been a traditional means for securing the members with the consumption needs. So each and every member in traditional families, each and every member helps financially as well as economically. They plays an economical and financial role. Next function is socializing the children. Sexual relationship is required. Procreation is must. Then important thing is not only procreating the procreation, but also the socializing the children. It is the responsibility of the family not only to reproduce the family, but also for ensuring that children are encouraged to accept the lifestyle it favors, to master the skill it values, and performs the work required. So, socializing the children is one of the main function of the family, so that they can be a good citizen and can survive in the society. Then property transformation. The family acts as an agency of holding and transmission of the property. Most of the families accumulate much property such as the lands, goods, money, and other form of wealth. The family transmits the property from one generation to another generation. That is inheritance, transmission of the properties and goods. Right? Types of the families. There are the types of the families, the traditional families and the modern family. The traditional family consists of a man, women, one or more of their biological or adopted children. Most traditional families includes the grandparents, uncles, aunts, parents, and children. The modern family is a nuclear family, small in size, consists of father, mother, and their children. The typical size of traditional family has more than two generations living together, and the modern family generally has three or four people, that is, husband, wife, and their children. In traditional family, the man is always a breadwinner, while woman is a housewife. The man is very patriarchal and makes decision himself. Now, on the basis of biology, that there are three types of the family: nuclear family, joint family, and the extended family. Nuclear family is a unit composed of husband, wife, and their unmarried children. The size of nuclear family is very small. It is free from the control of elders. It is regarded as the most dominant and the ideal form of the family in the modern society. What is extended family? Extended family is used to indicate the combination of two or more nuclear families based on the extension of parent child relationship. According to Murdoch, an extended family consists of two or more nuclear family affiliated through the extension of parent-child relationship. That is the parent, that is husband, wife, and their married children are living with them. That is known as the extended family. Right now, the joint family. Joint family is composed of set of siblings, their spouses, their dependent children. According to M.S. Gore, a joint family consists of a man, his wife, their adult sons, their wives, children, younger children, and a paternal couple. The size of joint family is very large. Generally, the eldest male is the head of the family, and the rights and the duties of the member in this type of family are laid by the hierarchy order of power and authority. So, on the basis of biology, there are three types of family: nucleus family, which is the size of this family is very small. It includes, that is, the husband, wife, and their children. Right? It is the most common form of the modern society. Next is the extended family. Extended family is where it is based on the parent-child relationship. Say, for example, that is when the parent stays with the married children. That is the extended family, right? Joint family. Joint family is where the number where they when they are composed of a set of siblings. That is the parents, right? Their married and unmarried children, right? Apart from this, they the uncles or the maternal uncle stay together. That is known as the joint family. So today we discussed about um, marriage and family. In our next lecture, we'll start with a new topic. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.